Hello everyone, welcome back, and this Friday the journey towards the chess Grandmaster title continues. I'm going to be playing an over-the-board classical tournament. It's not the strongest event, I'm the number 2 seed, but it's what I had available in November. Trust me, in December there's 2 international trips that are coming up again to play strong opens, but this is what I have for November. I'm going to be playing this event, and so today I decided I want to bring you along a tactics/calculation training session on Chess Tempo. You can pause the videos, try to find the solutions along with me, and then I will explain my thought process on every step of the way so that hopefully you can also take away a thing or two and learn from this video. So a quick disclaimer, while I'm solving these puzzles, I'm going to be talking exactly about what I'm thinking about every step of the way in terms of checks, captures, threats, candidate moves, how to come up with these moves. If I were doing it myself, I might do it much faster and much more intuitively, but I still think it's a good way to train, because the way you get to that point where you're able to see these things very quickly is by at first consciously training your thought process, by looking at these checks, captures, and threats, and if you do it over and over and over again, then you'll get to a point where you see these things automatically. So maybe if you're stronger than me watching this video, or if you're about my level, or maybe even lower level than me, but better than me at tactics, you might see these things very quickly in a couple of seconds when I take 3 minutes to explain, but I still think it's a good way to train, even if you're stronger, and if you're low rated, then I hope that these examples can help you out in terms of how you should be thinking during puzzles and even during real games. So without further ado, let's get started. This is the first position, and let's see what is happening. So usually before solving, I like to kind of assess the position, what's happening, and then start calculating. So material wise, we have what, 4 pawns against 5 pawns. We're down 1 pawn, but we have this passed pawn on c7, all other pieces equal material. And so let's start with the checks, captures, and threats, which is the standard process to calculate. No checks available in this position. Captures, only queen f6 and rook d6 seemingly, which I'm a big advocate of looking at all the possibilities. But in this case, really, I think we can conclude pretty easily that none of those moves really lead to anything. So now, let's look at the threats. And we have this passed pawn on c7, which surely will have something to do with the solution. If you remember the last book that I made a video on, there was a chapter called Inconspicuous Mate. What does that mean? That the passed pawn, if it manages to promote in many situations, it's pretty much just as critical as if a checkmate were to happen. It's game over, GG's. So let's think how we can take advantage of that passed pawn. So, what are 2 threats that take advantage of that? Well, bishop b7 seems to be one possible move because we're threatening to promote. And the other move that comes to my mind is to play a rook to c1. And we'd also be threatening to promote. And the key thing here is that this queen is protecting this bishop. So he might have to spend some time, or simply the bishop is going to be lost. Now, bishop to b7, he has queen takes c7. And I don't really see any follow-up, because if we take his bishop, he takes ours. And we simply lost that passed pawn. Now, rook to c1 is a more interesting looking candidate move. He has to protect against our promotion. If he does so with the queen e6 or queen d7, we can just push the pawn, rook takes, queen takes, and queen takes f6. And we are up a bishop in that position, which hopefully should be enough to win the game. And if rook c1, rook c8, then it gets a little bit more tricky, or maybe not. First I was considering bishop b7, but after bishop b7, rook takes, queen takes, and we're in the same situation, where if we take his bishop, he takes ours. But I also have bishop to h3, with the same idea of attacking that rook. Although then, that leads to the question, why can we not play bishop to h3 directly? Maybe that's even stronger than moving the rook. Because keeping the rooks on the board, I think, eliminates the chances of him giving us any checks, and more chances to win the game since we don't have that many pawns left. So why is bishop h3 not stronger? Maybe it is. We're threatening to promote. Can he do anything about it? He can't even move the rook. So it seems to me that that is indeed the move. Bishop h3, queen takes c7, queen takes f6. Perfect. Now, something very important that I like to do every time we have any kind of questions or doubts about the puzzle that we just solved. For example, here, we were just taking a look at this puzzle, and I want to know, is there really such a big difference why the first move we were considering, rook c1, is bad? And so I'll just use the engine. If you want to try to figure it out yourself without using the engine, then I guess even better. I'm trying to save some time, so I am using the engine. So let's take a look at this line. Bishop h3, this is what we're looking at. Rook takes c7, takes, queen takes, and queen takes f6. We have a bishop for 2 pawns. And it seems here there's only queen c1 check and only queen c5, which keep equality. So it wasn't that easy to understand. Queen c5, queen f2. Apparently the only move is queen c3. And he is attacking this pawn, yeah, and picking it up. So it is possible to calculate. At the same time, during the puzzle, we intuitively concluded that this wasn't as good, because with rooks on the board, there's more chances for checks, for the pawns to be falling, and there's more chances to win with a rook on the board. But seeing these details would, of course, also be good. And so after every puzzle that I have doubts on, I like to do this process, take a look at the engine and everything to figure out all the details. So as you could see there, I was a little bit rusty. I should have found the move bishop to h3 immediately, because it's also a threat, same as bishop b7 and rook to c1. But I didn't. But eventually, when I really thought about everything thoroughly, then the move did come to my mind, and we solved the puzzle. And that's why we're doing it, to get into form, to see these moves quicker. Next puzzle. Okay. Black to play. What do we have here? Material equal, but white's king seems to be in some trouble. So again, let's start with the forcing moves. Checks, there's only rook g1 check, which I think we can discard pretty quickly. Queen g5 would be directly threatening mate on g2. But what if he plays queen to f1? Doesn't seem to lead to anything, but we can always come back to it later if we don't find anything else. What other threats do we have? Is bishop h3 a threat, sacrificing the queen? Rook takes d7, bishop g2 check, king g1, bishop takes f3 check, king to f1, and the king seems to be escaping. Now bishop g4 seems to be an interesting move, because now we're looking at more threats. We're simply going through that thought process of checks, captures, and threats. And against bishop g4, he cannot take our queen, because bishop takes f3 would be a checkmate. So after bishop g4, if pawn takes, then we can take that rook and we're up in exchange, right? And a rook is very active on the b file. That should be a winning position. So does he have anything else? Doesn't seem like it. If he defends, then again we just take that. So this does seem to be the move. Let's play it. Bishop g4, and we take on b7. Let's go. What do we have here? This seems, well, like a very complicated position. Both queens are hanging. Okay, let's assess the position first. We are seemingly down a piece, which means that probably it's going to be something very critical. And so let's start calculating. Both queens are hanging. And in many cases, when these kinds of counter-attacking moves appear, in many cases, they are blunders, because it gives us the chance to play some kind of intermediate move. Not always, of course. Sometimes it's good. But this is a tactic, so maybe something does exist. And so let's start with the checks. Bishop e7, he just takes, doesn't seem to lead to anything. Queen takes e8, he can take with the queen and get that queen out of danger. So what about any other captures? If we play something like queen takes b6, pawn takes, bishop takes d8, rook takes d8, we just traded pieces and we're still down that knight that we were down at the very beginning. So maybe we can escape with our queen while creating another threat, which is in many cases what you should look out for in these kinds of counter-attacking situations. So this f7 square comes to mind with this bishop that's attacking it. But if we play something like queen c4 to attack that square, he could play queen d7. Right? And do we have any follow-up there in that position? Doesn't seem like it. So let's consider other moves with our queen Another move that comes to mind is queen to h5. What happens if he moves his queen to d7? The only square he can really go to. We can take on h6. King to g8, because we're giving him a check and this square is covered. And then it seems like we have quite a few possibilities. Starting off with queen g6 check being a move, because this pawn, the king, is pinning this pawn. So let's calculate. Queen h5, queen d7. Queen takes h6, king g8. Queen g6 check. He has two options. He can just go back or go to h8. And do we have a follow-up after those moves? Now, it seems like we might, because after queen h5, queen d7, queen takes h6. If he plays king f8, we can take on h7. And we're threatening checkmate in 1 with queen h8, which means he cannot take our knight. We recovered the piece, and we're probably still checkmating him. So let's go for it. Queen h5, yes. This is what we calculated. Queen takes h6. And let's pause one more moment, but here we considered queen g6 check. If the king goes to f7 to f8, then queen takes h7. If the king goes to h8, yes, it is correct, right? There we go. Now the final trick, queen to f5. If we take with the pawn, we're getting checkmated. So let's not do that. We could play bishop takes e8. Pick up that rook. Does he have any follow-up? I don't think so. Anything stronger? Nope. And we finally found the solution, but it definitely was not easy whatsoever. Okay, I'm back. I had to give a little chess lesson to one of my students. Speaking of which, if you want to work with me, you can check out the website linked in the description. But we're back now. And I have to continue solving. Didn't quite do the amount of tactics that I wanted to do today. So, let's take a look at this position. Black to play. And what's going on? This pawn is close to queening, but we have two passed pawns with the rook trapped behind. So, of course, the first move that we should probably consider is what happens if we play rook a1. In fact, it's the only move that doesn't move the king. Right, so this one, it should seem pretty straightforward. Let's start calculating. Rook a1, if takes, then of course, we just stop the pawn by moving the queen. So after rook a1, he will probably push the pawn directly. We take on b1, and he queens. That's if we take on b1. That's the first option we're considering. If he queens, we can of course give a check. And if the king moves, we can promote. And does he have any perpetual checks? Is it tricky or something? The other possibility I'm considering is rook a1, the pawn pushes, and we play a2. But then rook takes on b2, rook c1 check. The king moves, we promote, he queens, we take, and how did the situation really change? Because he can still give us a check. So this is interesting. Rook a1, e7, rook takes b1, e8. I think we have to give the check, or else he's going to start checking us. We have to promote. He's not going to go to the b file, so he's going to go to the d file. And if we give another check, he's probably going to go back to c4. And then we promote. Do we really need to start calculating the checks that white gives us? I don't think there's a chance we're getting perpetual checkmated, right? Because we always have the queen on b1, and calculating all the checks seems impossible. So let's just look at one final thing. If rook a1, e7, rook takes b1. Yeah, here check, we promote. We have a rook and the queen against the queen plus this pawn. Hopefully I'm not missing anything. It can't be a2. a2, e8, a2, sorry, rook takes b2. Check. Yeah, he's just keeping a rook. We have to take. Okay. Just check and promote the pawn. Let's pause maybe here for 1 second just to make sure. Because the question is there any benefit to giving a check first? And if the puzzle is continuing, there's probably a reason. There's probably a difference between pushing directly and giving that check. If we give a check, he has to go back to the c file, or else we're doing this. But does that help us? It should, right? The fact that the king is further away. It should in theory. So I think we're going to give the check. Okay. And the puzzle is still continuing. So do we just promote? I think we have to, right? There's no other checks other than this, which would just repeat the position seemingly. Okay. This is an interesting one, because now I'm actually really curious in figuring out the differences. So let's, again, do the same process. Copy that PGN. Go to an analysis board. And see what is going on. Let's paste this. What if we do this? Queen e2 check. And what? It's a perpetual. King f4, queen f2 here. There's no way we can ever block, huh? But wait, what if we escape this way? Only move is queen d5. Okay. Pretty tricky to see. And again, we found the answer simply by using logic, by bringing the king away. Intuition mainly. But I guess it is also possible to calculate everything. Well, if you're still here at the very end of the video, then a big thank you for watching. It's not the same kind of video that I'm trying to make recently, these high quality edited videos. But I have to get ready for my tournament. After all, this channel is all about my journey towards the Chess Grandmaster title, bringing you along the way. So I hope you found it interesting as well. Tournament is starting on Friday. I'm going to make a recap of every single game, just like I did when I was in Colombia. And then, as I said at the beginning, in December, we're going to be traveling again. And now that I have a better camera, better mic, hopefully I can make the videos better for you to enjoy. So I know this one probably won't perform as well. A little less engaging of a video, but I'm sure some of you will have found it useful. So again, a big thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.